There's a feeling in the air that something is shifting. You can sense it, not just in the paddock whispers or the subtle changes in car behavior lap after lap, but in the way Toto Wolff talks. It's not boastful. It's not even a confident proclamation. No, this is something rarer. It's the cautious, heartfelt optimism of a man who's been to the very top and then had to sit through the long silence of defeat, waiting to feel alive again. The 2025 Chinese Grand Prix didn't just offer points. It offered hope. And in Formula One, that's a currency far more valuable than rubber, carbon, or even speed. For Mercedes fans, those who stuck by the silver arrows through the drought, the heartbreak, the sheer frustration of watching potential slip through their fingers, this weekend might not have brought a win, but it brought something more powerful: belief. Let's take a deep breath and truly appreciate what's unfolding here. The Chinese Grand Prix weekend started like so many others in recent years. Hopeful, yes, but cautious. This is a team that's been burned before. A car that's promised progress in simulations only to falter under the brutal honesty of track conditions. A leadership group that has had to redefine success in a world where dominance once felt inevitable. But from the moment they arrived in Shanghai, there was something different. On Saturday, Mercedes secured 7 points in the sprint. A respectable number, not groundbreaking, but sturdy. The kind of performance that forms the spine of a good championship run. And then Sunday came, and with it, the roar of possibility. George Russell, the ever-consistent soldier in silver, stood tall on the podium. Third place, yes, but it was how he earned that podium that mattered. It was a performance born not just of talent, but of resilience. George drove like a man who's tired of waiting for Mercedes to return to form. So he's taking it there himself. Every lap, every overtake, every moment he fought for grip or defended his position. He looked like a man holding not just a steering wheel, but the future of a team in his hands. Toto Wolff, never one to dish out easy praise, described George's drive as a 10 out of 10. And for a man as methodical, as analytically driven as Wolff, that's not just a compliment. It's an emotional admission. He knows this team isn't back to winning just yet, but for the first time in a long time, they're close. Really close. A few tenths behind instead of a whole second. That's not just an improvement. It's a revolution in the making. And then there's Kimi Antonelli. If George Russell is the now, Antonelli is the soon. The teenage prodigy, thrust into one of the most high-pressure seats in world sport, is proving that talent isn't always loud. It can be quietly relentless. His P8 finish, which later became P6 after the drama with Leclerc and Hamilton, wasn't just about numbers. It was about heart. Floor damage on lap 1 should have ended his day. Massive holes in the car's underbody. Titanium strips gone. Performance compromised. But did he whine? Did he panic? No. He just got on with the job. And when the checkered flag fell, the fans, voted him driver of the day. That's not just about performance. That's about connection. That's about energy. That's about someone who's giving it everything and who we can't help but root for. Antonelli didn't just finish a race. He announced himself to the world, scars and all. And isn't that what Mercedes is doing too? Mercedes, like Antonelli, is racing with scars. Scars from 2 grueling seasons spent chasing shadows. From cars that looked good in wind tunnels but lost their soul on the circuit. From a legacy built on dominance, now being tested in an era that doesn't wait for legends to catch up. But these scars tell a story of humility, of painful learning, of growth under pressure. You can see in how Toto Wolff speaks now. This isn't the voice of the man from 2016 overseeing a ruthless empire. This is someone more grounded, more weathered. Someone who's been forced to look inward, to accept that Formula One, like life, is never just a straight line to glory. It's jagged, unforgiving, and brutally beautiful. When Wolff says, "We're clearly the second fastest team today," it's not just an assessment of race pace. It's a quiet victory, a signal that the team's direction is finally aligning with the vision that's lived in their minds since the ground effect era began. It's the kind of sentence that carries weight when you've known what it's like to not be anywhere near the front. It's an acknowledgement that the puzzle pieces are starting to click, even if the masterpiece isn't quite finished yet. Let's talk about that puzzle. In the past, Mercedes was a team of perfectionists, precision, dominance, engineering poetry in motion. But perfection is a fragile thing. The introduction of ground effect regulations in 2022 turned the sport on its head. Suddenly, the tools they relied on, data models, simulation software, even driver feedback, weren't enough. The rules changed, and Mercedes had to become something else. Not just fast, adaptable. It's taken them years to shed the skin of their former selves, years to admit that what worked before wouldn't work now. And that journey, uncomfortable, uncertain, filled with false dawns, is why this moment in Shanghai matters so much. Because this isn't a result pulled out of nowhere. It's the harvest of years of self-reflection, of recalibration, of patience. Wolff mentions how the car platform is now stabler, how mechanical tweaks actually do what they're expected to do again. That sounds technical, but it's deeply emotional when you think about what they've endured. Imagine working day and night on a machine that refuses to behave the way you designed it to. Imagine the emotional toll that takes. Now imagine the quiet triumph of turning a wing, adjusting a suspension element, and seeing it respond, finally, the way it's supposed to. That's not just engineering progress. That's hope made tangible. But Toto is clear, they're not celebrating yet. There's no entitlement here. We'll be happy when we start winning races and fighting for championships, he says. Not if, but when. That's the mentality of a man who knows this journey isn't over. It's only just beginning. Mercedes is now second in the constructor standings. Read that again. Second. After all the doubt, all the criticism, all the memes, all of their finish takes, they're second. Not because they lucked into it, because they earned it. Through sweat, through setbacks, through sheer bloody-minded determination. There's something poetic about this moment in Mercedes' journey. For a team that once commanded the grid with an iron fist to now find pride in being the second fastest might sound like a fall from grace to outsiders. But to those who understand F1, to those who live and breathe it, this is the most exciting chapter of all, because comebacks are always more compelling than dominance. And Mercedes isn't just making a comeback in terms of performance. They're rediscovering themselves. This isn't about replicating the old winning formula. It's about building something new, something sharper, humbler, and more human. You can see it in how they treat their drivers, how they communicate with fans, how Wolff opens up in interviews. They're not hiding behind glossy PR lines anymore. They're raw, honest, and most of all, hungry. That hunger shows in every corner George Russell takes. George, who has had to walk the tightrope of being both the future and the present. A driver who entered the Mercedes seat with enormous expectations and immediately found himself in a car that couldn't match his ambitions. But he stayed the course. He kept showing up. He kept delivering, even when the machinery didn't. And now, finally, the car is starting to meet the driver. Russell's performance in China wasn't flashy. It was intelligent, composed, mature. He didn't chase glory. He maximized what was in front of him. And that's what makes champions. Not just speed, but judgment. He knew when to push, when to defend, when to conserve. He brought the car home in P3, just under 2 seconds behind Lando Norris, who, by the way, is in the form of his life. George didn't overtake him. He didn't need to. What he did was send a message. We're coming. And we're closer than you think. But perhaps the most moving part of this weekend came from a driver who didn't even make the podium. Kimi Antonelli. Kimi is 18 years old. Let that sink in. Most of us at 18 are still figuring out who we are. Kimi? He's wrestling a 200 miles per hour machine against the best in the world, and he's doing it with grace beyond his years. 4 damage on lap 1. Severe damage. By all logic, his race should have been compromised. And it was, but you wouldn't know it watching him. He held on. He adapted. He kept pushing, kept delivering consistent lap times, kept believing. No team radio complaints. No drama. Just quiet focus. And that's why he was voted driver of the day. Not because of where he finished, but because of how he drove. It's not just about the position. It's about the presence. He gave us a glimpse of something special. A future world champion, perhaps. A driver who can carry the Mercedes legacy forward not by copying what came before, but by forging his own path. Toto Wolff knows what he has in Kimi. You could hear it in his voice when he talked about the damage. Massive holes in the floor, titanium strips gone, he said. And yet he was proud, not just of the performance, but of the mindset. Because what Wolff values most isn't just lap time. It's character. When Toto Wolff talks about maturity in Antonelli, it's not a throwaway word. He's seen world champions rise. He's managed Hamilton. He's coached Rosberg. He's mentored Bottas. And now he sees something rare forming in the quiet strength of a teenager. It's in the way Kimi handles pressure, the way he adapts, the way he doesn't crack when the odds are against him. It's more than talent. It's temperament. And in Formula One, that's often the difference between a good driver and a generational one. But what's even more remarkable is how Mercedes is evolving around their 2 drivers. They're not just building a faster car. They're building a team, a culture that breeds accountability, humility, and focus. A culture that no longer demands perfection from every weekend, but instead values progress, data, and shared belief. That belief is growing in every department of the factory. In Brackley, in Brixworth, in every simulation run, every debrief, every wind tunnel test. There's a rhythm returning to Mercedes, a heartbeat they haven't felt in years. It's the sound of alignment between engineers and drivers, between data and reality, between dreams and deliverables. It wasn't always like this. Let's not rewrite history. The last few seasons were hard. The W13 and W14 taught them some brutal lessons. They chased concepts that made sense on paper but failed them on Sundays. They trusted philosophies that lacked the adaptability this new era demands. There were weekends where the team looked lost, unsure, even fractured. But they didn't fold. They regrouped. They listened. They let go of stubborn ideas and embraced humility. That's what makes their progress now so emotionally powerful. This isn't the success of a dominant machine. It's the slow, stubborn rise of a team that refused to stay down. One of the clearest indicators of this rebirth, their growing mastery of tires. In China, Toto pointed out that the hard tire, the C2 compound, was rock solid. A real racing tire, not just for surviving, but for pushing, for extracting performance without compromising long-term strategy. And Mercedes, after struggling for years to understand tire windows, finally seemed to be cracking the code. Not just for one race, but consistently. Tire management in modern F1 is a dark art. You don't just bolt on rubber and go. You dance with them. You warm them up, protect them, rotate them, manage surface temperatures and core heat in ever-changing conditions. You anticipate track evolution, wind direction, car balance shifts, and rivals' pace. And in that chaos, Mercedes is starting to shine again. Because now, they're not just reacting, they're predicting, they're controlling, they're learning faster than most. And that's what Wolff said. The ones who have the fastest learning rate will win. That's the secret. Not the fastest car on day one, but the sharpest minds and the most united team. Mercedes isn't there yet, but the path they're on, it's no longer foggy. When we talk about Mercedes today, we're not just talking about lap times and podiums. We're talking about legacy. This team has spent over a decade writing chapters that redefined what excellence looks like in Formula One. But as with every great story, there's always that turning point, the fall, the crisis, the moment where everything feels uncertain. For Mercedes, that turning point came after 2021, and the years that followed weren't just about losing races. They were about losing certainty. What do you do when the tools that once made you unbeatable no longer work? What do you do when the world around you evolves, and you're suddenly chasing concepts you don't fully understand? You either cling to the past, or you reinvent yourself. And that's what makes 2025 so powerful. This isn't just a technical resurgence. It's an identity shift. Toto Wolff has always been a unique figure in Formula One. He's not just a team boss. He's a philosopher of sorts, a leader who understands the emotional fabric of a racing team. His interviews are rarely about pure strategy or politics. They're about people, drivers, engineers, fans, legacy. He sees the sport not just as competition, but as a stage for human ambition and resilience. When he says, there's no sense of entitlement, he means it. Mercedes isn't expecting the world to hand them another title. They're fighting for it, day by day, millimeter by millimeter, mistake by mistake. They're earning it again, and that's why this story matters. Because if a team that once ruled the world can find itself humbled and then rise from the ashes not bitter, but wiser, then maybe that's a lesson for all of us. That sometimes falling is necessary. That sometimes the journey back is more rewarding than the time spent at the top. In 2025, Mercedes feels alive again. Not just because they're fast, but because they're hungry, because they're learning, because they're no longer haunted by what they used to be, but excited by what they could become. And when you zoom out, that's the story of Formula One, isn't it? Teams rise, teams fall, legends fade, new stars arrive. And somewhere in that rhythm, in that never-ending cycle of reinvention, we find the beauty of this sport. It's not just about who wins. It's about how they got there. The pain, the pressure, the triumph, the tears. Right now, Mercedes is giving us all of it. And if you're a fan of this team, you're not just watching a comeback. You're watching a rebirth, a rediscovery of passion, a reminder that even the greatest need to start again sometimes. So here we are, The checkered flag may have fallen in Shanghai, but for Mercedes, the race is far from over. In fact, the race that matters most, the race back to greatness, to identity, to purpose, that one is just getting started. And it's not just a race for them. It's a race for us too. For every fan who never stopped believing. For every mechanic who stayed late at the factory chasing answers that didn't come. For every engineer who watched simulations fail and had to go back to the drawing board again and again. For every young kid wearing a black cap in the grandstands, dreaming of hearing that Mercedes anthem play again at the top step. You've all been part of this story, because what Mercedes is doing right now, it's not about dominance. It's about resilience. It's about fighting when no one's watching. It's about pushing even when the data says you shouldn't. It's about staying true to who you are, even when the world doubts you. George Russell is proving he's not just a seat warmer for the next generation. He's a cornerstone, a leader, the calm in the storm. Kimi Antonelli is showing us what the future looks like. Grit, grace, and unbelievable composure for someone barely out of adolescence. A kid with scars already forming, but wearing them like armor. And Toto Wolff? He's not just rebuilding a team. He's nurturing a soul. Mercedes isn't just about machines. It's about people. And right now, the humanity is what's making this team shine again. This is what makes Formula One different. It's not just a sport. It's a mirror. It shows us what's possible when we fail, learn, and rise again. It shows us that even giants can fall, but they can rise stronger. With new purpose, new humility, new hunger. And that's what you're watching right now. You're watching a legendary team remember how to dream again. Not because the path is easy, but because they believe. And so should you. If you've been here from the beginning, thank you. If you're new to this story, welcome, because this ride is far from over. Mercedes is building something. Something powerful, something real. And you'll want to be here when that next one comes. When the anthem plays, when George raises the trophy, when Kimi carves out a legacy of his own. You want to say, I was there when it all began again. So if you felt something today, if this story stirred your love for racing, if you believe in growth, in heart, in comebacks, then stay with us. Subscribe. Join the McLaren faithful family. We tell stories that matter, not just the headlines, the heartbeat behind them. And we're only getting started. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing. And until the next race, keep the faith. Hello, McLaren faithfuls. Stand a chance of winning $1,000 by hitting that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe so you never miss any McLaren and F1 updates with relaxing ASMR elements. McLaren Faithful's YouTube channel is now covered in English and multiple languages. Your support is what keeps this incredible community growing stronger every day. It costs you nothing to like and subscribe, but it helps the channel tremendously. Let's continue the conversation and share our passion for McLaren and F1 together. As a YouTube member, you can also discover my journey as a passionate creator navigating life with challenging disabilities. Despite the obstacles, I'm determined to follow my dreams and share my love for McLaren and F1 with the world. By becoming a YouTube member, you'll not only be supporting my dream, but you'll also gain access to exclusive content, including untold stories of legendary F1 drivers and much more. Your support can truly make a difference in my life, helping me continue to do what I love. Join McLaren Faithful's membership below and enjoy.